Hello, my back to bottom. My name is Beast, and today we're back with SenMomo after I forgot to record yesterday. Yeah, the video should go up of me talking about why that happened. Granted, it almost happened again. It is almost 10 p.m. because I got distracted again. I'm incorrigible. Anyways, let's just not beat around the bush and move on. After school, I visit our headquarters to retrieve the spell blades that need honing. And enter the arsenal through its multiple layers of locked doors. I'm greeted by all the spell blades we've collected so far. Take a deep breath in and fill my lungs with the smell of blade sharpening clove oil. Oh yeah, right, we're currently inside of Hotri's head. Ah, how relaxing. Hope that when death comes for me, they might cover my body with this oil and set me on fire. The spellblades don't have an answer for me, obviously. But I don't feel lonely because even though they can't talk, I believe each spellblade has its own distinct personality. Whenever I hold them, I can get a vague idea of how they're doing today and how they want to be handled. Spellblades only come into being when one or more priestesses offer their very lives to forge them. Turning their own souls onto spell force, they infuse their wills into the vessel of the blade. So it's not strange at all that these blades have their own personalities. Rather, it'd be strange if they didn't. When I have the time, I'd love to chat with every last spellblade in our arsenal, but I am unfortunately not at liberty to do that today. I'll grab only the blade that we're going to have Kotne hone. Her sheath is missing, and her body bears several cruel burn scars. Damage to its extent, this blade is beyond the abilities of the sworn blade zone priestesses to hone. But the Exalt priestess can surely manage it. Oh, if only I was better at talking to people. I looked it up later, and apparently sword is how they spell blade in Republican. She was just trying to lighten the mood with a joke. Dejectedly, I wrapped the burned spellblade in cloth. Suddenly hear a voice call out to me. It's a delicate, fragile voice, like the silently sorrowful sobbing of a woman cruelly cast aside by her man. Perhaps it lacerates my heart so much because I find myself in a similar situation. As I search for the source of that voice, I come across a spellblade of cloudless azure. The blade raises a voice of displeasure, as though she can hear my own thoughts. Still have about 30 minutes to spare. Can at least afford to give her a little maintenance. My mind made up to take the blade into my hands. After my shift, I take the shop van over to the Imperial Temple with Akari and Hotori in town. As soon as we get out, a priestess waiting by the gate bows to us. She's the attendant I met at the office this morning. He bows courteously. Akari says with a bow. I brought her along on the condition that she stays out of the way. Follow the priestess's lead. I thought we'd be heading to the main worship hall, but that doesn't turn out to be the case. We enter the building through the temple office and proceed deeper and deeper. Considering that we descended a flight of stairs at one point, we might very well be on the ground. The space we arrive in is not particularly large. On the altar facing us, a gilt bronze mirror representing Omikami shimmers with a cool light. Standing before this ostensibly inanimate mirror, I somehow feel as though I'm being watched by a higher power. Perhaps I am actually standing before Omikami himself across the mirror. Kotane greets us in front of the altar. She's flanked by 10 attending priestesses, 5 on each side. These words from Kotane, all the attending priestesses bow and silently withdraw. The priestess who guided us here is also nowhere to be seen. her repairs and in a sanctum of the Imperial Temple with 10 priestesses waiting on her. Such is the station of the Exalt Priestess. And combined with the room's dignified atmosphere, it makes Kotere appear like an entirely different person.
直接お迎えに上がりたかったのですが、何分域内ではしきたりが多ございまして。
どうやらこうして面会できるだけでも光栄と思わなければいけないようだ。
めっそうもない。ただただ窮屈なだけです。人に頭を下げられるのはどうにもなれません。
Kotere murmurs with a self-deprecating smile.
では、早速刀を拝見してよろしいでしょうか。
よろしく頼む。
拝見いたします。
Jesus, fuck, that sword is gone. That shit would need magic in order to repair. I believe we've brought Kotene's one that all of our priestesses claimed was beyond their abilities to hone. Likely dug up from the burned ruins of the warrior district that's charred pitch black and covered in splinters and scratches. The blade's jewel containing its spell force is murky and nearly opaque. It would be hard to even recognize it as having once been a proper blade. As Kotene cradles the blade in her hands, it responds to her reverence by emanating a faint glow. Kotene closes her eyes.
この刀、作刀は560年ほど昔のようです。命はさざ波、法命の巫女は一人。この刀はわずかながら自然との対話を可能にしてくれるようです。
Kotene speaks quietly as though translating the light radiating from the blade into human language. About 560 years ago, a priestess offered her life to create Sazanami. Perhaps its communion with nature was to be used for locating enemies lurking on the battlefield. For generations, our ancestors sallied forth onto battle with this blade in hand, listening ever closely to the voice of nature. A nature that vanished without a trace beneath the shadow of the Republic's firebombs.
そこまでわかるんだ。
普通の巫女は2時間ほどかかる。琴音の力が段違いなんだ。
すごいのね、琴音って。では、研がせていただきます。
Kotene withdraws a sheet of rice paper from her kimono and delicately folds it in two over the body of the blade.
明幕も賢き、大神の大前に、賢みも猛作。
Kotene begins chanting her invocation. It is not the low, rumbling tone of the managers. A string of sound, barely recognizable as a voice, envelops Kotene's body and expands outwards. I feel an inexplicable sense of pressure. There isn't so much as a breeze, that a force that threatens to crush my body closes in from all sides. As though the overflowing will of Omikami is trying to expurge our impure presence from his sacred hall of worship. Blade emits a dazzling radiance. Kotene draws the blade across the paper as if to wipe the rust clean from its body. As it effortlessly passes through the paper, not so much as a blemish remains. At the same time, the jewel in its hilt recovers its brilliant luster. Can you actually see the hilt? No, you can't. You think that it was so horribly damaged just seconds ago. Forgetting the force assaulting my body, I stare on in dumbstruck awe. Kotene finishes wiping the blade up to its very tip. She exhales a long, thin breath. That light enveloping the blade scatters like countless fireflies. Kotene cradles the blade in her arms once again.
見事。すごい。
見事だ。
The three of us raise our voices.
お褒めくださる前に仕上がりをご確認ください。
Kotene returns the blade towards the wrapping and stands up. At a glance, her brow is damp with sweat. Even for the Exalt Priestess, the use of such magics is physically draining.
改めさせてもらいます。
Kotene examines the blade. Even a cursory glance speaks to the overwhelming quality of the honing. Rude as it is to say, it's on a completely different level from anything our priestesses could accomplish.
素晴らしい。うまくいって何よりでした。ここで失敗したら格好がつきませんからね。
Kotene shows us an innocent
自
smile.
相刀を研ぐと
ところは初めて見た。ことね、すごいじゃない。
Akari's voice overflows with wondrous adulation.
私などはまだまだです。ご先代様ならこの程度のことは朝飯前でした。
Kotane says while humbly lowering her head.
そうそう。呪詛塔のことで琴音に聞きたいことがあったのだった。
はい、私でお答えできることなら何なりと。
呪詛塔は武人のみが扱えると教えられてきたが、例外はあるのか？
あ、その話、私も知りたい。
例外ですか。
Kotane ponders the question for a
呪
while.
詛塔は武人の体を流れる大祖の血に反応して力を発揮します。その断りを力ずくで変えるほどの呪力があれば不可能ではないかもしれません。少なくとも私には無理です。
だそうだが。
私呪力なんてないよ。
Just because you don't know any doesn't mean you don't have any.
そもそもそれほど強大な呪力を持った人間に呪詛塔を使う必要があるのかという気もしますが、多少の敵なら指先一つで撃退できるでしょうし。
言われてみればそうか。ちなみに琴音は山の一つくらいは吹き飛ばせるのか？
まさかそんな。私など丘くらいがせいぜいで。
But a single hill! I feel like that's still a lot. I genuinely can't tell whether this is her trying to be humble.
丘は壊せるんだ。
ええ、まあすごく怒られましたけど、若き日の過ちというやつです。
I'm not sure such a spontaneous act of landscaping qualifies as a youthful indiscretion.
ミコ殿、
Kotane finally speaks up after being silent all this time.
すみません、調子に乗って武勇伝など。
詐称ですが。
Kotane offers her a small silken parcel. She'd prepared it as payment for the
お
honing.
気持ちだけで十分です。刀の時は巫女の務めですから。
昔から武人が礼をする習わしだ。お力を貸してくださった大神への捧げ物という。
なるほど、それは不勉強でした。
Kotane claps her hands together.
では次回からはいただくことにします。
なぜ？
今回はお願いがあるのです。
Kotane adopts a humble expression.
私を武人町へ連れて行っていただけないでしょうか。
あそこは廃墟だが。
もちろん存じ上げています。今は立ち入りができないことも知っています。ですが、樹の巫女としてあの地で命を落とされた武人の皆様のために慰霊を行いたいのです。かの地では無数のご遺体が埋葬もされず野ざらしにされたと聞きます。あまりにも無残でございます。
The warrior district was razed in the air raid, which served as the harbinger of war. The dead number of 30,000, most of whom were warriors and their families. Indeed, the victims of the warrior district bombings comprise over 80% of all casualties suffered during the war. Yet the warriors were treated as war criminals following the war, and no proper memorial services were ever held.
ご先代様が亡くなられてから樹の巫女がいなかったこともあり慰霊が行えませんでした。私が就任したからには死者の魂をないがしろにはいたしません。
ミコ殿、
Kotane mutters barely above a whisper.
最初にも同じお願いをしたのですがすげなく断られてしまいました。こうなれば忍び込む以外にありません。
ありがとう。
Kotane doesn't even try to conceal her tears. I reach out and stroke her trembling back.
伊能様、私また何かまずいことを。
神殿の長たる樹の巫女殿が慰霊をしてくだされば、死んでいった武人たちも報われる。心遣い感謝する。
I bow in place of Kotane, who is still unable to speak through her tears. Left exposed to the elements and spat on by the people of the Empire, the souls of the departed warriors may now finally rest in peace. Even I, who lost all my memories of the war, can feel my chest tighten at the thought. How much longer must Kotare's feelings be? How much stronger must Kotare's feelings be? At the same time, however, I resent myself for being unable to share in her sorrow. My own family, my adoptive parents, sister. They should still be buried among those ruins. But the faces have already vanished beyond the veil of oblivion. Oh, adoptive parents! Very important. Very, very important, because this means either he was adopted from a higher family of warriors, that's why he got to interact with the Exalt Priestess beforehand, or he does have the magic to just overrule the fucking edict on the Spellblades to use them.
琴音は俺が必ず武人町まで連れて行く。
ありがとうございます。ぜひよろしくお願いいたします。
Kotone gives us a deep bow. Though we really ought to be the ones to lower our hands.
君と出会えたのは幸運だった。
過分なお言葉です。
私からも感謝する。これで祖先の霊も報われる。琴音が樹の巫女でよかった。
ありがとうございます、伊能様。
Kotone's ears turn red at Hotori's benevolent, trusting
では
gaze.
時間と入る方法はこちらで考えておこう。連絡先を教えてもらっていいか。
はい、もちろんでございます。
Kotone grazes us with a joyful
琴
smile.
音、よかったじゃない。伊能に認められて。
はい、それは安心しました。もういつ切られるか。
Kotone nervously glances at Hotori. It's still a bit awkward, but Hotori manages to show her a relaxed expression. This time it's Kotone's turn to be overwhelmed with emotion and burst into tears. After exchanging contact information with Kotone, the three of us leave the Imperial Temple. I'm surprised she was allowed to have a fucking cell phone. I feel like the fucking Chancellor will take one look at the thing and like, spyware. Later about the memorial service, Hotori has been in high spirits ever since.
送ってくれてありがとう。
琴音と会えてよかったな。まさかほとりの泣き顔が見られるとは思わなかった。
やめてよ、もう。可愛らしいじゃない。うるさい。
Hotori grumbles with a pout.
宗人なら私の気持ちわかるよね。樹の巫女が慰霊してくれるなんて、こんな光栄なこと。
もちろんわかる。茶化して悪かった。
もう。
She crosses her arms and turns away in a huff. It's not every day that I get to see such an endearing side of
で
her.
は異例の日程が決まったらまた連絡する。
Hotori nods lightly and directs her gaze at Akari.
何？宗人を危険な目に遭わせないで。は？
Hotori turns to wave at just me before slipping into a nearby alleyway. She has to be wary of being followed so she can't head straight home.
普通男に言うセリフじゃない？
Well, very much the other way around this, guys.
先日の襲撃に君がいたことが気に入らないらしい。
あれは不可抗力でしょ？
もちろん。次は連れて行かない。
I start the engine.
なかなか心を開いてくれないな。やっぱり血筋を証明するまでは難しいか。
そのことで今日一つ考えたことがある。君が着ていた呪装具があったと思うが、あれは鑑定済みのものか？
鑑定書があったとしても、おそらく定休の中よ。あ、わかった。琴音に鑑定してもらうつもりね。
I nod in reply. According to Akari, the artifact has been passed down in the Imperial family for generations.
あれが皇家の宝だと証明できれば、持ち主の血筋の証明にもなる。
盗んできたと思われるのがオチじゃない？
一級品の呪装具であれば、所持者の履歴はどこかに記録されている。盗難にあったのならあったで、そのように記載されるはずだ。
Akala's artifacts are so significant that even if they are kept as private property, their ownership is strictly regulated. Such information regarding the ownership is publicly available.
ま、鑑定してもらって損はないか。
樹の巫女のお墨付きともなれば、ほとりの見る目も変わる。
まさか琴音を頼ることになるとは思わなかった。
Akari smiles at the strangeness of her circumstances. Gun? Akari ducks for cover. I glance out the window and spot a group of 5 or 6 Imperial police standing with their guns raised. Follow their gaze and see a man collapse on the ground. Must have been shot dead for resisting. Don't step on the brakes. A mass of shame boils up inside me. I continue picking up speed. Akari doesn't oppose me as before. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see her biting her lip hard enough to draw blood. Whether it is her personal growth or her merely learning the ways of the world, I know not. All I know is that I am a failure for having made my lord feel this
お
way.
好みの暗殺まだ諦めていないのか。
Akari continues staring out her window in silence.
放っておくとどんなに悲惨な光景も見慣れてしまう。いつの間にか今が普通で昔が夢だったのだと思うようになる。そうなる前に立ち上がらなければ後の祭りだ。
She is no fool. She should know perfectly well that there would be no future beyond the assassination. But Akari still says nothing, continuing to stare at her window.
あら、お店通り過ぎて。
少し流そう。
Wanna have a nice long talk
共和
tonight.
国ではこういうのをドライブというらしい。
そういう柄じゃないでしょ。どういうつもり？
なぜ性急な暗殺にこだわるのか聞いておきたい。
私の勝手じゃない。下ろして。車を止めなさい。
そうはいかない。君の行動次第で広告の未来が変わるかもしれないのだ。
Ignore her and speed up.
こら、下ろして。
先日は降りろと言っても降りなかったではないか。
そういう意趣返し？なかなか腹が立つ男ね。
どうせこれから機嫌が悪くなる話をするんだ。今から怒ってもらって差し支えない。
あー、この。
After a considerable amount of griping, Akari eventually slumps down in her seat. It's a sour temper, so I should at least take us somewhere with a nice view.
なぜ暗殺を諦めてくれない。おこのぎを暗殺したところで社会は変えられない。
私はお母様の仇を取りたいだけ。
つまり復讐のためなら国民を犠牲にしても構わないということか。
My lord is truly such a person that I'm most unfortunate indeed.
質問を変えよう。暗殺に成功したとしてその後どうする。伊勢屋で畑でも耕して暮らすか。
Akari doesn't meet my gaze. She impassively stares into the distance, her face an expressionless mask.
死ぬの。
何。
暗殺に成功したら私は死ぬつもり。
There is nothing heroic about her expression. She speaks of her own death as though she's talking about her plans for the weekend.
暗殺で社会が変わらないのは分かってる。でも私にはそもそも社会を変える気なんてないの。お母様の仇を討ち、自らの命も終わらせる。それが私の宿願。
I'm at a loss for words. Images of Akari's lifeless face swirl around in my mind over and over. Car in the opposite lane narrowly whizzes by, but I don't even react in the slightest. Never in all my life have I felt so stricken, and I can't help myself.
前、見てよね。
Face forward
な
silently.
ぜ死を選ぶ。
それが私の役目だから。
I cannot comprehend. Why must she, whom I revere as my lord, invite her own death?
私は皇家の人間よ。敗戦の責任を負わなくてはならない。
負けたのは俺たちが不甲斐なかったからだ。
その話、三好でしたでしょ。戦場で戦う武人に罪はないの。責任を取るのは私たちの役目。
Akari did say just that. Conversation ended with the matter unsettled, but Akari was completely serious at the
広
time.
告の安寧と豊穣を守ることは大神から課せられた皇家の使命。使命を果たせぬ時は一族老頭、その身をもって大神に許しを請うべし。それが皇家に代々引き継がれてきた帝王学なの。歴史を紐解いても飢饉や疫病があった後には必ず皇帝が代替わりしているはず。
I've forgotten history I learned from before the war, but I at least relearned the genealogy of the imperial family. And indeed, as she says, after every major calamity that threatened the top of the empire, a new emperor acceded to the throne.
国を奪われることは皇家にとって最大の罪。今こそまさに身をもって大神に許しを請う時じゃない。ここで命を捨てられないなんてご先祖様に申し訳が立たない。
Haki doesn't appear to be drunk on her own destiny. Her expression is calm and composed to the very end.
私はね、敗戦から今まで自らを処すために生きてきたの。私が宗人の思い通りにならないのはそもそも生きている目的が違うから。
あなたのお説教は最初から筋違いだったってわけね。
Seems like I've been underestimating Akari all this time. Did I really think deep down that she would eventually bend to my will? Did I really let my guard down, thinking of a simple, reckless girl with more passion than she knew what to do with?
疑問は解消した？
Akari gives me a gentle smile. I mean, to be fair, just pulled didn't think you'd be abandoning your people like that. Because, like, she is essentially by saying that she's gonna kill the fucking Chancellor. Like, she's gonna kill Okonogi and then kill herself. She is literally going to cause massive fucking panic. And chaos in her nation, and then peace out. If anything, that would be what you would need to beg for forgiveness for in front of Omikami. What the fuck? Fuck. That was weird. Akari gives me a gentle smile. Oh, because I for some reason grabbed my fucking controller. I don't know why I did that. I mean, technically I could play with my controller, but that's not the plan. The smile that sees straight through to my heart of hearts.
解消した。
結構おこのぎを通したら宗人には解釈してもらおうかな。
Akari murmurs softly, a voice tinged with self-deprecation. To execute one's own lord is the greatest defeat a warrior can suffer. Must never be allowed to happen. I'm racked with an intense headache. The pain feels as though my brain is being squeezed in a tofu press. So I managed to stomp on the brakes and pull over by the side of the road.
構わないでくれ。
Akari retracts the hand she was reaching toward me. Following it with my gaze, I look straight into her
俺
eyes.
はお前を死なせない。
Cradle my splitting head, barely managed to put my feelings to words.
生き恥をさらさせるつもり？
進化を捨てて先に逃げることの方がよほど恥だ。
逃げるんじゃない。死ぬことこそ私たちの使命。いわば戦いだから。
それでもだ。俺はあかりを死なせない。
Stomp on the accelerator in place of screaming.
宗人、強情ね。本当に。
Akari regards me with a warm expression.
でも私の決意は変わらないよ。
主には最後まで立っていてもらわなくては困る。そうでなければ死んだ武人の魂が行き先を見失う。
残念。相入れないみたい。
Akari smiles wanly and looks out the window. Jewel-like nightscape drifts past her reflection in the glass.
悪くないわね。ドライブ。
March 13th. Sunday evening, just past 10 of the clock. Akari and I step outside to find Kotane waiting for us.
宗人様、今日はよろしくお願いします。
She looks rather nervous.
こんな時間に呼び出してすまない。直進殿の方は問題ないのか。
はい、こっそり抜け出してきましたので平気です。
こっそり？
いえ、きちんと話はついております。
Kotane frantically goes on damage control.
その荷物は？
Point at the bag on Kotane's back. She points at me.
組み立て式の祭壇です。異例には必要ですから。ほとり様はいらっしゃらないのですか？
事情があって今回は外れてもらった。ぜひとも手厚い礼をお願いしますと。
はい、もちろんです。
Kotane is sitting this out in consideration for her position within the Sworn Blades. Entry into the ruins of the warrior district is strictly prohibited. If we get caught, our lives may be forfeit. It'd be too dangerous for the acting chairman to come along with us.
では行こう。
Take a streetcar to the Yugorasu district. From here, we'll cut across the river bank where we'll cross the river into the warrior district.
賑やかなところね。初めて来ました。
Their eyes go wide at the spectacle of Yugorasu district. The frenzied fervor of storefronts blots out anything resembling order. Like the heads of a hydra, the queer atmosphere of the district extends throughout each of its crooked alleyways. There's clearly no place for a pair of wide-eyed maidens. Quickly move them
こ
along.
こではまあ何でも売っている。出どころは聞くなというやつだ。宝飾品や呪詛刀は武人町から拾ってきたものも多い。
火事場泥棒じゃない。信じられない。
Akari makes her anger apparent. From a warrior's point of view, the heirlooms of our families and friends are being peddled off without permission. Julie's an outrage, but these folks are just desperately trying to get by. The only thing worthy of blame is Okanoki's tyrannical regime. We emerged from the Yugorasu district and reached the riverbank. Sprawling across the river is jet black relief is the warrior district, the place the warriors lived until 3 years ago. This vast river island was sealed off by the Republic immediately after the occupation, and even now only military personnel are permitted entry. You can see the roofs of military installations dotting the center of the district, but the rest of the area is an overgrown grassland. The early spring grass is still reddish-brown, but by midsummer the whole area will be covered in weeds as tall as grown men. The remains of the warriors and their families sleep there even now. The river is close to 100 meters wide. Steep cliffs perpendicular to the riverbed face us from the opposite shore, with a chain link fence stretched across them for good measure. What's more, the bridges leading to the neighboring districts are monitored 24 hours a day.
これはもしや寒中水泳ということでは。
のんびり泳いでいたら撃たれる。
じゃあどうするの？
飛ぶ。
え？なるほど。そこで納得ですか？この服は呪詛具なの。露出が多いのがたまに傷だけど、無人に近い動きができたりして。
I somehow appear to have hurt myself behind my ears. That's weird. Akari declares, slightly lifting the hem of her skirt.
まさか、だとすれば相当に高価な。いえ、お金で買えるような代物ではありません。一体、何人の巫女の命が捧げられていることか。
Kotaro stares at Aki's raiment with awe in her eyes.
よかったら、後で鑑定してもらえない？うちの家宝らしいんだけど、由来がわからなくて困っているの。私も興味がございますので、ぜひ鑑定させていただきます。
Kotaro immediately begins prodding at Akari's clothes, muttering to herself all the while. If the appraisal produces the verdict we're looking for, we can use it to prove Akari's lineage.
こちらの話を続けるぞ。あと10分ほどで大型の輸送船が川を上がってくる。それを足場にすれば比較的簡単に向こう岸まで飛べると思う。 向こうの金網さえ越えれば警備はほとんどいない。
Aki looks
あ
uneasy.
かり、怪我の様子はどうだ？無理なら俺が抱えて飛ぶが。
大丈夫。自分で飛べる。痛むようなら帰りは抱えてもらうことにする。
Judging by her expression, I have nothing to worry about. As for our other accomplice,
私、走り幅跳びはあまり得意ではないのですが。
最初から抱えて飛ぶ予定だ。
はい、よかった。あれ？よかったのかな？
at last the barge comes into view from upstream. It's loaded with freight containers, perfect for serving as a flat jumping-off point.
音ね、行くぞ。
Place Kotane on my back.
この体勢は。
よかったわね、ことね。おんぶしてもらって。
それはそうですけど、まさか川を飛び越えるなんて。
目をつぶっていろ。舌を噛まないように。
Bobbing her head in the sand, Kotane quickly squeezes her eyes and mouth shut.
よし、俺から行くぞ。
Take a running start and set my sights on the barge. I leap with all my might. Land on the barge for a split second, immediately leap again. Clear the fence and land among the grass of the warrior district. Check behind me to see Akari about to make her second jump. The moment she gets to a running start atop the freight containers, the whole of the barge tilts sharply.
あかり、
Silently let out a yell, but in spite of the unsteadiness, Akari manages a clean jump. She lands right beside me and gracefully breaks her
あ
fall.
かり様、すごいです。
どう？私も捨てたものじゃないでしょ。
She gleefully stands up and begins brushing the dust off her clothes. Excellent, our infiltration went off without a hitch. A strong gust of wind blows past, rustling the grass around us. Like a candle being blown out, all is stillness in its wake. No matter how much I tried to ignore it, the smell of burning perfuses my nostrils. 3 years ago, countless warriors and their families lived out their ordinary days in this place, before it was all reduced to ash in an instant. All that remains is the land of the dead. Silence presses down on me with terrifying weight.
風が鳴いているようです。
Kotane stares vacantly into the unending fields of overgrown grass.
異例の儀式はどこで行う？
できれば中心部で行いたいところですが。
軍の施設に入ることになるな。
でしたら、ほとり様のご実家はいかがでしょう。
なるほど。ほとりも喜ぶだろ
If the warrior district was the face of the clock, then a Republican military installation would be dead in the center. Wide roads extend out from there in the 12, 3, and 9 o'clock directions, ending in bridges leading to neighboring districts. The rest of the district was left in ruins and is now slowly being reclaimed by nature. For what it's worth, we're currently at approximately 7 o'clock. Otri's house is about 200 meters northeast from where we are. I lower my stats and silently creep forward. The grass is so tall that I can't even see my own 2 feet. It's about Kotane as she's about to
う。
fall.
大丈夫か？
すみません。つまずいてしまって。
Kotane looks down at her feet.
あれこれ。
Kotane freezes in place. Her gaze is fixed down at a human skull crudely split in two.
本当に置き去りにされているのね。
ああ。無残なものだ。
Someday when the Empire is back to its former self, I'll come back to collect all these remains. Then I'll have Kotane give them a proper burial.
先を急ごう。
Press forward, giving encouragement to the 2 girls who had fallen silent. After a while, we arrive at our destination.
ここが伊能家。向かって右隣が俺の家、時武だ。前に来た時より風化が進んでいるな。
Only the faintest trace of the former buildings remain in the sprawling grass before us. The remnants of the Ino Manor and its immense dojo, the Miyogi-kan.
少し見てきていいか？
どうぞ。
Leave the 2 behind and walk around the remains of House Tokita. It's a much smaller manor than House Ino. Apparently I once lived here with my adoptive parents, my sister, and a handful of servants. It's the 3rd time I've been back here, but I still don't remember anything. Any decent person would surely feel some sort of emotion in a place like this. Up to a small object with my toes. It's a lady's comb. Pick it up and brush off the dirt with my fingers. Based on its design, it must have belonged to a young woman. Could have been my sister's. Keep it as a memento. Even though I can't remember anything, nobody would mind this much. Return to where the others are. Kotane has already assembled her altar and finished her preparations for the ritual.
待たせてすまない。いつでも始めてくれ。
はい。それでは始めさせていただきます。
With a small nod, Kotane turns and faces the altar. I've fallen behind her along with Akari, and we tune our ears to the sound of Kotane's quiet voice. Tens of thousands of lives were lost in this place. Yet this must be the first time a priestess has conducted a memorial service here since the war. How many warriors would have shed their tears knowing that the exiled priestess herself was here conducting this memorial? I'm sure that all the warriors sleeping in this place will finally be put at ease.
共和国を駆逐した暁には国を挙げて慰霊を行いたく思います。その時まではこれで許していただきたい。
Sadly, I make this heartfelt prayer.
Hotaru?
A wisp of light the size of my fingertip drifts past Akari's nose and soars into the sky. Check to make sure my eyes aren't playing any tricks on me.
なんだこれは。
I start taking my voice as a signal. The glimmers surrounding us gradually begin to disperse into the sky. Wisps of light come forth from the ruins of my home and Hotri's as well. Looks as though these souls bound here all this time have finally been freed from their yoke. Before we know it, we're engulfed by a vast fulgur of radiance. At a loss for words, all I can do is vacantly admire the miraculous vista.
魂たちもようやくあるべき場所を見つけたようです。
Kotane says, rising from her
突
prayer.
然すぎる死は時に犠牲者を惑わせます。魂が自身の死を認識できず生前の状態でとどまってしまうのです。慰霊とはそういった魂に事実を告げる作業でもあります。
ようやく救われたのだな。
さようでございます。
あんなにたくさんの人がここで。
Akari whispers, staring at the countless wisps of light as they disappear into the sky.
約3万と言われている。
数は私も知ってたよ。ただ、あの光を見たら、急に何も言えなくなった。
There's a world of difference between hearing the figure 30,000 and seeing it with your own
あ
eyes.
の日、私は武人帳が燃えているのを見たの。炎の下でこれだけの人が亡くなっていたのに、私は何もできなかった。
それこそ君が背負い込むことではない。
でも、何とかするのが私たちの使命だったはず。なのに私はただ逃げるだけだった。それもあなたにしんがりを任せて。
Akari stares at me. She stares at me with eyebrows contorted in anguish as a raging fire burns within her eyes. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice a peach petal fluttering
ま
down.
ただ。
Could there be peach blossoms in a place like this? Catch the falling petal in my hand. It slowly dissolves in my hand like melting snow. Pain runs through my skull like a nail being rammed into it. This petal of Persica. I've seen it somewhere before. Why naked?
ソージ？
ソージー様。
My conscience dissipates in an instant.
ソージ！ソージ！
Akari's face is right in front of my eyes. Did it collapse?
あかり。
どうしたの？大丈夫？
わからない。体に力が。
琴音、見てくれない？
はい。
Kotane holds her hands over me.
どうしたの？
いえ、何と言えばいいか。重力の流れがかなり乱れています。
重力。どういうことだ。
When I asked, but my voice refused to come
よ
out.
し、私が担ぐから。
担ぐ？
逃げるの。共和国軍に見つかったら大変でしょ。ほらほらほら、琴音は荷物をまとめて。
はい。
よっと。
I feel like I'm floating in midair. Akari's carrying me on her back.
結構重いわね。鍛えてくれていてありがとう。
自分で歩ける。
そういうことはもう少し元気な声で言って。ことね、いける？
はい、片付け完了でございます。あかり様は歩けますか？
受装具を着ているから大丈夫。さあ、急ぎましょう。
Akari starts moving, unable to resist. I'm carried along as a dead weight. Could there be any shame greater for a warrior than to be carried by on his lord's back? Just abandon me, leave me here to perish in obscurity next to my fallen brothers and sisters. Pleaded again and again, but my mouth refused to form the words. Drops as the rain began to fall on my face.
こんな時に雨ですか？
めげないの。それより宗人の体温が冷えないようにして。
わかりました。あれ？
Here Akari gasped. Streaks of red light flash across the edges of my vision. It's the Republican army.
使ったか。
どうして私たちがいると分かったのでしょう？
光の粒じゃない？
あ、すみません。魂さんたちが思いのほか元気で。
I won't be able to get away from the Republican army if they're dragging me around. Can't afford to hold them back any more than I already have.
あかり、俺は置いて行け。足でまといに。
うるさい。黙ってて。絶対に死なせないから。
Akari adjusts her grip on me.
走るわよ。
I push through the tall grass, running as fast as I can. Before I even notice, Sojin has fallen completely unconscious on my back. Gosh, why did you have to pass out here of all places? Was it the shock from seeing those specks of light? Or perhaps it was that peach petal. It doesn't matter. I'll never forgive him for collapsing in a place like this. I want to always stay strong. No, I need him to stay strong for me. That's what I decided during the war. As the Republican army closes in, bringing the spear in its wake. In their wake, Sojin stood up and protected me. I'll never forget the sight of his back in that moment, so reliable, sturdy as a mountain. It's somehow all too lonesome. All that is what makes Sojin who he is, and so that's why I'll never forgive him for being sprawled out over my own like this.
石でも連れて帰ってやる。
We don't have a second to waste.
あなた、伊勢屋育ちのくせに体力がないわね。
あかり様のように毎日剣術の稽古なんてしていませんでしたから。私は文系なんです。
私だって剣術の後は夜中まで勉強してました。ほら、もうすぐ。
Spot the tall chain link fence in the distance. The lights lining the top of the fence are hazy in the pouring rain. Suddenly a red dot appears on the side of Kotane's head. Oh, Jesus Christ! I knock Kotane's side in the same instant as gunshots ring out. A burst of bullets buries themselves in the grass right in front of me.
ありがとうございます。
いいから急いで。
Bullets pierce the air, whizzing past my ear.
大神よ、私たちをお守りください。体の周りに防壁を作りました。これで少しは。
Kotane's legs are moving visibly slower. Her use of magics clearly took a heavy toll on her
あか
stamina.
り様、私を置いて先に行ってください。
どうして二人とも同じことを言うのよ。
でも
でもじゃない。
Shift Sojin onto my left arm and grab Kotane with my right.
一緒に飛ぶからね。死にたくなかったらしっかり捕まって。
I run with everything I have. The fence is right before my eyes.
こんなところで、こんなところで死ぬか。
I leap into the sky. Like she's, based on what she said, it does just sound like she's carrying them like this, like soldier in one, fucking Kotane in the other, just under her arms, just fucking running. Also, they appear to be drowning. I poke my face out from the surface, only a little farther to the shore.
大丈夫？暑い。
Push Kota's body up onto the moored boat next to Sojin. My head sinks out of water for a moment. The water's in early spring is shockingly cold. The instant I swallow a mouthful, strength immediately begins vacating my body, and I can't give up yet. To save Sojin, I heave Sojin onto the boat with all my strength. I reach out to the side of the boat. I don't see my own arm where it should be in front of me. Not only that, my entire body feels as heavy as a sandbag. Sound entering my ears becomes muffled. I'm sinking. When I realize that, the tension inside me suddenly dissipates. I can't even feel my fingertips anymore. Fingertips. I don't know why I love that video so much. Without having the energy to close my eyes, I stare at the receding surface of the water.
様、ごめんなさい。敵は取れそうもありません。不出来な娘をお笑いください。
This is the end. My only friend at the end. I'm going to die without accomplishing a single thing. My fading memory, the last thing that passes through my mind is that familiar sight of his solitary back. He wasn't wearing that. He was not wearing that during the assault. I'm sorry. Suddenly an irresistible force pulls me up from my arm.
お疲れ様。いい根性してる。
They scatter, fluttering from the sky. One petal of persica and another. Alas, so beloved, tell me why must you continue your fight, even until your tears run dry? I force my eyes open. The scenery that leaps out to greet me is that of my own room. What am I doing here?
お目覚めでございますか、ソージン様。
Unexpectedly, Kotan is kneeling right beside me, peering at my face.
よかった。無事だったのか。あかりは。
まずはご自身のご心配をしてくださいませ。あかり様はご無事です。命に別状はございませんが、今はまだ眠られたままです。
Sit up and unsheathe my wakizashi lying beside my pillow.
あれから一体何があったんだ。
ソージン様が意識を失われてから、あかり様と私でなんとか武人町から脱出しました。その際、共和国軍と追いかけっこになってしまいまして。
Kotan explains what happened in the warrior district. When I hear the situation was extremely
申
perilous.
し訳ない。役立たずとはこのことだ。
I place my hands on the tatami and prostrate myself.
そんな、お手を挙げてください。誰でも気絶の1回や2回はあるものです。
あるか。
あ、いえ、ないかもしれません。
すまん。
不可抗力でございますということでございます。
Kotan defends me with a flurry of
私
excuses.
は何も起こっておりません。むしろ私が異例をしたいなどと言わなければこのようなことにはならなかったわけですから。
いや、そこは違う。
違いません。
As we furiously exchange bounds with each other, the door opens.
気絶する武人が悪い。
その通り。
ああ、
This discussion is over.
俺たちを助けてくれたと聞いた。ありがと
私は言われた通り待機してただけ。それに3人をここまで運んだのは店長だから。
う。店長にも後でお礼を言っておく。ともかくありがとう。
I'd asked Hotri to come to the riverbank shortly before we were scheduled to return. I wanted to be prepared in case anything went wrong. She must have called the manager because she deemed it safer to take us back by car.
あと褒めるなら宮国を褒めて。武人でもないのによく頑張ったよ。彼女がいなかったら宗人も琴音もここにいないと思う。
情けない。
Wish I could just disappear.
宗人も元気そうでよかった。私は宮国のところにいるから。
With a faint smile, Hotri leaves the room. I finally process the situation. I check the clock to find that it's 5 in the morning. Must have been sleeping for a few hours.
実はソージン様がお休みの間にほとり様からお礼の言葉をいただきました。武人として今回の異例には感謝しているとのことで。
そうか。そうだろうな。
Hotri shed tears from just hearing about Kotane's plans. She must have been carrying the regret of all the fallen warriors on her shoulders this entire time. She must have been constantly tormented by the guilt of being unable to put their souls to
わ
rest.
ざわざ礼を言ってきたのなら、よほど嬉しかったのだろうな。
見込み折りに尽きることでございます。
いや、こちらこそありがと
I lowered my head to her in gratitude.
ああ、そう。あいつはかなり口下手なやつなんだ。怖い武人に見えるかもしれないが、怒ってはいないから気にしないでくれ。
そうだったのですか。私はてっきり嫌われているのかと思っておりました。
むしろかなり好意的だと思う。
安心しました。実は気にしておりましたので。
Kotone breathes a sigh of relief.
悪いが、あかりの様子を見てきていいか？
まだ目は覚まさないと思いますが、どうぞ。あ、宗人様に伺いたいことがありますので、私はこちらで待たせていただいてよろしいでしょうか？
もちろん。
At any rate, I just want to make sure Akari is safe and sound. Leave the room heading the same direction that Hotori did. After assuring myself of Akari's well-being, I head back to my own room. She was sleeping peacefully and should eventually wake up on her own accord.
待たせた。
Enter to find Kotone dozing off in her spot against the wall. Might be the only person to have ever seen Her Eminence in such an unsightly state. In fairness, I hear she made significant use of her magics during their escape from the warrior district. She must be well and truly exhausted. Should make sure my body is in proper shape while I wait for her to wake up. My own body, I mean. With that decided, I embark on my usual conditioning training. I make sure to match my movements with my breathing.
むしろ、昨日よりいい。
I was worried about the repercussions of my fainting spell, but it seems like I'm in peak physical condition.
よし。あと300。
I glance to the side to meet eyes with a very wide-eyed
目
Kotone.
を覚ま。
Like a centipede, Kotone scuttles to the nearest corner of the room before freezing in place.
宗人様、私をどうするおつもりですか？
目を覚ますのを待っていただけだが。
寝込みを襲うのではなく、むしろ起こしてから襲うと、大変良いご趣味をしていらっしゃる。
怒っている意味がわからないが。
目を覚ましたら、目の前で屈強な男性が高速で腕立て伏せをしているのを見た少女に想像したことがありますか？
ない。
でしょうね。
I'm so done!
いや、起こすのも悪いかと思った。
お気遣いありがとうございます。ただ、今回の場合は起こしてくださった方が、私の寿命が縮まずに済んだかと思います。もともとミコの寿命は短いのですから、これ以上縮めないでください。
Kotone slowly inches back to her original spot, smoothing down her disheveled hair with her hands.
驚かせて悪かった。ああ、そうだ。
Take a manju out from the refrigerator and heat it up in the microwave oven.
新しいものでなくて悪いが、遠慮なく食べてくれ。
あ、いえ、これは結構なものは。しかし、甘いものを与えておけば良いという考えも感心しませんよ。
With a satisfied smile on her lips, she happily digs into the manju. Looks like she is indeed someone who can be won over with mere trifling sweets.
それで、聞きたいことがあるということだったが。
はい、お体のことです。
Kotone swallows a mouthful of green tea and straightens her posture.
失礼とは思いながら、お休みの間にお体の状態を確認させていただきました。
Pervert.
むしろありがたい。何か異常が？
異常はございません。むしろ快調なご様子で、何しろ腕立て伏せも高速でおできになる様子でしたし。
Still holding that against me, I say.
ただ、お体に刻まれております呪文について、他の巫女は何か言っておりませんでしたか？
いや、今まで見てもらった限り、何も言われたことはないが。
Kotone thinks for a
ご
moment.
存知の通り、呪文とは武人の体に生まれつき刻まれている紋章です。大祖の血を引く証明と言った方が正確かもしれません。呪文の形には落ち筋によって共通する特徴がございまして、識別は巫女の基礎技能でもあります。しかしながら、宗人様の呪文は初めて拝見するものでした。
初耳だ。
さようでございますか。
Kotone makes an uncharacteristically serious
個人
face.
的に興味もありますので、今後もお体の経過を見せていただいてよろしいでしょうか。
こちらからも頼む。呪文は、呪詛島へ力を送るものでもあるのだろう。 不調があってはいざという時に困る。
かしこまりました。
Kotare bows to me. That's the first time anyone has brought this up. Exalt Priestess has a formidable wealth of knowledge indeed.
俺が気を失ったことも呪文に関係あるのか？
全く見当がつきません。少なくともお体には異常がないのです。
では一体なぜ？
Two of us both cock our heads in puzzlement.
桃の花びら？いやまさか。
ああ、言われてみれば武人町で見かけた気もします。でも桃の花びらに触れて気絶なんて信じられません。
念のためあかりにも後で聞いてみよう。
そうされるのがよろしいかと。では他になければ私はこれで。まだ何があるかわかりませんし、宗人様もあまりご無理な鍛錬はなさらぬよ
う。Kotare begins to stand up.
ことね。一つあかりについて聞きたいことがある。
なんでございましょう。
伊勢屋でのあかりのことだ。確か鬼人とかなんとか言われていたらしいが。
ああ、そのことですか。
Kotare sits down
あか
again.
り様は巫女の学院の近くのもみじ山に住まわれていたのです。あかり様のおばあ様とお二人でずっとお話しする機会もなかったのですが、学院の巫女の間では評判の方でした。朝から晩まで剣術に励んでおられますし、夜も明かりが消えるのを見たことがございません。こちらも妄想たくましい年頃でしたので、あれこれ尾ひれがついたのです。例えば、実は亡き周防帝の娯楽院で仇討ちのために腕を磨いていらっしゃるとか。
Bullseye!
鬼人というのはそういうところを指してついたあだ名でございました。ただこれはあかり様には内緒にしていただけますか。
Kotare asks while lowering her voice to a whisper.
もちろん。
鬼人と言いましても奇妙の鬼人でもあり、実は鬼の鬼人でもあったのです。
鬼？
I didn't my brow in
あま
confusion.
りにも剣術の練習ぶりが激しかったのです。特におばあ様が厳しい方でして、まさに鬼が乗り移ったかのようにあかり様を叱咤されておりました。それで皆が怖がりまして、鬼と。
Akari's bladesmanship is indeed several cuts above that of a mere amateur. After all, her blade work carries an unmistakable conviction to cut down her enemies, a palpable will to kill with every strike. Such skill could not be taught even through years of daily practice on a dojo. So brutal was his training she underwent. Just how tenacious was his elderly matron who taught her.
ともかくもあかり様は厳しい毎日を送っていらっしゃいました。ですから天境で楽しそうに過ごされているのを見て、とても嬉しく思っていたので。
楽しそうか。
Try to think of the last conversation I had with her that didn't involve talk of rebellions and or assassinations.
はい、宗人様とお話しされている時は少女のように笑っていらっしゃいます。
それは少女だろ
年齢の話ではありません。伊勢屋でのあかり様はあのような顔はなされませんでした。追い詰められた獣のような、どこか悲壮な表情をされていたのです。ですからあかり様は宗人様に出会ってきっと喜ばれているのだと思います。
う。だといいが。
本当ですよ。もう
Kotare retorts, puffing out her cheeks.
ことね。貴重な話をありがとう。
申し訳ありません。長々と。
Kotare begins to stand
あ
up.
かりの服の鑑定よろしく頼む。
はい、かしこまりましてございます。
One last bow. Kotare turns and leaves. Hi, Akari.
ここはどこ？
At the end of time, I hope you guys enjoyed this one and see you next time. Goodbye.